I can only apologise for the delay, but what a round 3 of the Six Nations was this year. Tight wins for Ireland, for England, an absolutely thumping win for France, and it sets up that game in Dublin next weekend as an absolute humdinger. Welcome back to the channel. As I say, it's taken me a while, but we are here. Give me your views. What did you make of England's win over Scotland? Scotland fans, are you bemoaning the officiating decisions that didn't go your way? Do you have wider concerns about this team at the moment? Wales, Ireland, Welsh fans, how much did you need that performance even though the result didn't go your way? And what's going on with the French at the moment? They swing from one performance to another, it seems. I'm going to start off with England-Scotland though. From an England fan's point of view, it feels to me that there are two camps really. There is the glass half full or the glass half empty. Now the glass half full, which is the camp that I'm personally in, is they haven't played great. They've had to ride their luck both against Scotland and against France, but at least they are winning matches against top opposition and at least they are winning tight matches. And do you know what? Sometimes the luck goes your way. They would probably point to things in the autumn or the back end of last year when they lost to France at the end of the Six Nations for moments that didn't go their way. Perhaps now they're just cashing in some of those chips. You can't rely on that forever, but I think given that the criticism of this team through the autumn was not being able to see out games and not being able to quite get themselves over the line, the fact they have done the last 2 weeks, I'm feeling relatively positive. Yes, the performances need to improve, particularly in an attacking sense, but having played what on paper at least are the three toughest teams in the Six Nations, to have won 2 of those games, I'm pretty happy with where England are overall, and I'm just glad that they've got the win. And I think it's different depending on where you are as a team. Do you remember post the 2019 World Cup when England then came back and actually kept winning under Eddie Jones? Like they won that kind of weird Autumn Nations Cup, which was during COVID and there was basically no one there. The Six Nations after the World Cup as well, they were still winning the bulk of their matches, but they were playing terrible rugby. And on that occasion, I think it was fair to criticise them because they weren't playing well enough, because it was a team that had got to a World Cup final, that had produced an all-time great English performance in beating New Zealand in the semi-final. We knew that they were capable of so much more, whereas this England team haven't had those sorts of performances, haven't had that sort of scalp against big opposition on a consistent basis. So for me, the fact they're winning, I'm pretty happy with that. But I'd imagine there will be plenty of you, the Scotland fans, that feel more like your team lost it. And it's the really funny thing about the Six Nations, isn't it? That Scotland now have lost 2 of their 3 games. They have to host a Wales side that look pretty resurgent. They go away to France on the final weekend. They might only pick up 1 more win, possibly no more wins if Wales really produce something. But I still don't feel that this is a bad Scotland team. I think what the Twickenham result probably really highlighted was this is a brilliant Scotland backline with a Scotland forward pack that I think has a good back row, but in terms of the front 5, in terms of test match rugby and the proper muscle you need, once again, there are question marks there. Now, this Scotland team have had those question marks for a long time. I remember doing videos in the autumn, particularly on the back of when they played South Africa, and giving them huge credit for the way that they fronted up physically. I think they are capable of it, but is that still the shortcoming of this team at the moment? And what does it mean for Gregor Townsend's future and all that sort of stuff? I think Townsend has done a great job with Scotland. I just wonder whether he's reaching the point where he thinks maybe it's time to move on to pastures new. I don't know. We'll wait and see. The one other thing with Scotland that I wanted to mention is Finn Russell. The 3 missed conversions. Now, it is far too oversimplistic to lay all of the defeat at his feet, I suppose. But you've got to talk about it. 2 of them were tough and from the corner, and we had the ref moving the final one for some reason, which is bizarre. The first one he should have got. But overall, we know the quality that Finn Russell brings. There are many other areas in the game that they would probably look at and say we need to be better here and here or whatever it is. The thing I came away from Twickenham thinking though, and Scotland fans, I'm expecting you to really disagree with me here, is Andy Farrell was there at the game. And if we're thinking of a Lions context, those are the moments that I think you have to nail. And a lot of you will say, don't be ridiculous, look at the body of work that Finn Russell has given us over years and years and years, over his whole career. He's the best fly half in the Northern Hemisphere, or at least in terms of the Britain and Ireland. Of course he should start for the Lions. I just wonder whether Andy Farrell will look at that and say, you have to nail those moments. In a tight test match away from home, on a Lions tour, in that test series against the Wallabies, I wonder whether that will count against him. Or is that too reactionary, too harsh? I don't know. All right, let's get on to Wales-Ireland. What a game. What an unbelievable performance from Wales, and the job Matt Sherratt did with 3 training sessions. And I know that there's the new manager bounce, right? Which is, we associate it more with football. That is a thing, a kind of uplift from a new coach coming in. But what's one of the main things in terms of coaching and rugby that we hear all the time, and it is that your attack is the hardest part of your game plan to build. Wales's attack looked brilliant. Wales's attack in that game looked better than England's attack has looked in all of this Six Nations. Like, their attack was brilliant, the shapes they were running were excellent, the ambition and the offloading and the confidence in that team, which just, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's something in it about having to add layers to your attack and it taking a while, but there's a part of me that it just obliterates that whole thesis, if you like, of coaching in rugby. What a job for Matt Sherratt. I mean, the scrum was better. They were winning penalties at the scrum. It looked like a team with confidence. The whole crowd got behind them. And my big take, actually, from watching this, I was in the press room at Twickenham, so I was watching this game there. And it felt to me like a classic Six Nations match. When I think of all the years of growing up and watching Six Nations games, it is this sort of contest that almost most epitomises the competition. Fierce rivalry between two teams, packed crowd, atmosphere absolutely buzzing, a match that can go two ways, so many fine margins, and just such an absorbing contest. I thought it was it just felt like Six Nations to me. It screamed Six Nations Championship, and it was a brilliant game. From an Ireland point of view, major credit to them here, because you often hear, I heard Sam Warburton, I think he said it on the BBC pod at the start of this week, if you win a Grand Slam, if you win a Six Nations title, there will be some game or some point along the way where things aren't going your way, and you maybe look at it and say, we got away with one there. And I think this could end up being, this game could end up being that for Ireland. With the close, me in the corner, the stretch just knocked it on. Fine moments in the game, you're up against it. Tough atmosphere, 20-minute red card, but you're able to see the game out. I thought they were brilliant in the way in which they did that. And actually, to bring us on to France and the huge game coming up in the next round in Dublin, Ireland against France, I think this is perfect preparation for Ireland. There might be some people that look at it and say, blimey, Ireland weren't as convincing against a Wales team that none of us thought were that good, have just lost their 15th game in a row. But I tell you what, I think any match like that where you are massively tested, away from home, as I say, like a tough position to dig yourselves out of, I think that stands you in really good stead for other challenges to come in this Six Nations. The final thing I want to say on this game, I know for most people probably have Gibson Park nailed on the Lions tour and probably starting. I wouldn't disagree with that. I thought Thomas Williams here was excellent. And given the fact that after Gibson Park, I mean, you've got, I suppose, Alex Mitchell, Ben White I thought was good for Scotland. There's not obvious number 9s that are definitely going to be selected there. I thought Thomas Williams was very, very good. And I think he could well be on that plane to Australia. But I say it's exactly what Ireland needed and great preparation for facing France. Let's move on to France. Dominant win against Italy. I think that is bad preparation for France in heading to Dublin. Now, those of you that disagree with me, and the flip side to that argument will be, this is a French team that were incredibly wasteful against England, dropping the balls, leaving tries out there, losing by a point at Twickenham. They go away, they put 70 points on Italy and play just some sublime attacking rugby. Like some offloads, little kick-throughs, pop passes, cutting Italy to shreds. It gives them exactly the confidence they need to get back on track, to then raise their game a couple more levels before facing Ireland. That would be the counter-argument to what I'm putting forward. But I just think you don't get as much out of it as Ireland do, for example, with an absolute arm wrestle tight test match. I thought Italy defensively at times were just not great, and I'm not sure how much you can get out of that overall from a French point of view. In the same way that I don't think France beating Wales 43-0 on the opening night of the Six Nations prepared them for going to Twickenham. I think it was too easy. I think they had the game wrapped up by half-time, if not sooner, probably after about half an hour. and it doesn't sharpen the mind, it doesn't sharpen the focus. You're not as battle-hardened as you need to be facing a really tough match, which is what's coming up. The toughest challenge in the Six Nations at the moment is playing Ireland in Ireland. So I feel like it's bad preparation for France. I don't necessarily mean that they'll lose to Ireland. I think because of this French team, because the quality they have, they're capable of winning. I just don't think this is great preparation for them. And what I will say, finally, on that Dublin game, there'll be way more build-up to come over the next week and a half. From a neutral's point of view, and I apologise to all our Irish friends watching, we need France to win it. Because otherwise, there is a massive danger that Super Saturday is a bit of a damp squib. Yes, Italy are still a decent side. They could well spring a shock on Ireland, but most of us would expect Ireland to go there on Super Saturday, the first game of Super Saturday, get the win. If they've beaten France, Grand Slam's wrapped up. The final 2 games isn't much riding on the title. If France get the victory, all of a sudden, all of those games mean something. Points difference comes into it. It sets up a Super Saturday that I think we all want. And so I think the Six Nations, for the time being, comes down to that game in Dublin. As we suspected it probably would at the start of the championship, but we've got there, and that certainly looks to be the case. The final thing I'll say on the Italians, and I'll revert this back to England, because England host them in their next game. It's the Sunday game at Twickenham in round 4. England will be the favourites now, and I think there will be, or they'd have been the favourites anyway, they've never lost them, but they'll be doubly the favourites because of the couple of games that they've won. And I think there's a pressure on England now, given the games they've had, to produce something more in terms of performance, in terms of an attacking performance in particular. And there is a danger in that, because for me, Italy, and we saw it against France, they are still a good side. Their defence was poor, but in attack, they can cause you problems. Their centre combination is good, they have danger out wide, and given that England's defence, particularly on the edges, you've been able to get at them. Their scramble defence has been good, but Scotland, France, Ireland have all got at them on the edges. I think Italy will look at that and think they're going to be able to come to Twickenham and give England a bloody nose and cause them some real concerns. And who knows, if you find yourself midway through that test match or 50 minutes into the game and it's tight and Italy are just in touch or even leading slightly, the whole atmosphere around Twickenham gets a lot more nervous. So I think, yeah, that is not an easy game by any stretch, I think, for England, in the same way that for Scotland, now hosting Wales is not an easy game at all after what the Welsh produced. Maybe, though, there could be a Scottish backlash. We'll wait and see. So those are my general thoughts. Those are probably the biggest things that stuck out to me when it came to round 3 in the Six Nations. Comment down below, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Anything I touched upon, anything else that springs to mind for you and your team, have your say in the comment section. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one.